Imagine you're sitting in your manager's office on a Tuesday morning. You didn't schedule this meeting, she called you in. You sit down, and for the next 45 minutes, she systematically tears apart a project you spent 3 months building. Every decision, every choice, every deliverable, picked apart one by one. And you're sitting there trying to stay composed, trying to listen, trying to find the legitimate feedback buried in all of it. When something starts to feel off, because the criticism she's making right now, it directly contradicts the instructions she gave you in your last meeting. Word for word, you remember it clearly. You have the email thread to prove it. And that's when it hits you. This isn't about the project. This was never about the project. You walk back to your desk, you pull up the email, you read it twice, and a very specific, very uncomfortable thought forms in the back of your mind, one you've been avoiding for weeks now. She's not trying to manage me. She's trying to break me. You can't just quit. You've got bills. You've got a lease. You're 4 months away from a bonus you've been working toward all year. You're stuck. And every single day, you can feel a little piece of yourself getting quieter. Hey everyone, it's Soluna. Welcome back to Soluna versus the System. Today we are talking about one of the most damaging situations you can find yourself in at work. A genuinely toxic boss. Not a demanding boss, not a disorganized boss. A toxic one. We're going to break down exactly what that looks like, why it's not about you, and the step-by-step strategy to protect yourself, document strategically, set real boundaries, and build your way out, without blowing up your career in the process. Let's get into it. Before anything else, we need to make one distinction clear, because this distinction determines everything about how you respond. Not every difficult boss is a toxic boss, and if you treat them the same way, you'll make serious mistakes. A demanding boss with high standards who still treats you with basic respect, that's challenging, frustrating sometimes, but not toxic. A disorganized manager who gives unclear direction and forgets what they said last week, that's annoying, still not toxic. A toxic boss is a different category entirely. Here's what it actually looks like. They micromanage every decision to the point where you feel like you can't move without approval. They take credit for your work in front of leadership. They criticize you publicly, in meetings, in front of your peers, but never give you real feedback in private. They gaslight you. They deny things they clearly said. They move the goalposts constantly so that no matter what you deliver, it was wrong. They set you up to fail with impossible deadlines or instructions that contradict each other. And nothing is ever good enough. You could turn in perfect work and they would find something to tear apart. If that sounds like your situation, you're not imagining it. And here's the first thing you need to lock in, because everything else builds on this. It is not about you. I know it feels personal. When someone is criticizing everything you do, it is almost impossible not to take it personally. But toxic behavior almost never comes from your actual performance. It comes from their insecurity, from pressure they're under from above, from power dynamics that have nothing to do with your work. Think about it this way. If 5 different people were doing your exact job at your exact performance level, this person would find something to criticize in every single one of them. You just happen to be in their path right now. The moment you start internalizing their narrative, the moment you start wondering if they're right, you've already lost. You'll get defensive, emotional, and start second-guessing work that was never the problem. That's exactly the dynamic toxic bosses depend on. Toxic bosses draw their power from one specific moment. The moment they say something so unreasonable, so unfair, so out of nowhere, that you're caught completely off guard. You go blank, you get flustered, you say something you regret, or you say nothing at all, and they've won that interaction. Here's how you take that power away from them before the meeting even starts. 5 minutes before any meeting with your toxic boss, sit somewhere quiet and mentally rehearse the worst-case scenario. What's their favorite criticism? What's the most unfair thing they could say? What's the move they usually make that gets under your skin? Play it out in your head in full detail. Picture them saying the hardest thing. Get specific. This technique works because it removes the element of surprise. If you've already sat with that scenario, already processed it emotionally in a low-stakes moment, you won't be blindsided when it actually happens. You'll be calm, and that calmness is your single biggest strategic advantage. Because when you stay calm, you have options. You can think. You can choose your response deliberately. When you react emotionally, you have one option, and it usually makes things worse. This is what you're going for, not weakness, not compliance, what I'd call professional neutrality, strategic calm. You are not agreeing with false criticism, you are not rolling over, you are simply refusing to give them the emotional reaction they're fishing for. When they criticize you unfairly, you say, I appreciate the feedback. Let me review what happened and come back to you with a plan. When they drop an impossible project on you Friday at 5 p.m., you say, let me look at my current workload and I'll get back to you Monday morning with a realistic timeline. When they take credit for your idea in a meeting, you follow up with an email the same day. Glad to see the concepts moving forward. Here's some additional research to support it. Notice what's happening in every one of those responses. You are staying professional on the surface, but you are also setting a boundary, buying time, and, critically, creating a paper trail. This is the chapter most people skip because it feels tedious. It is not tedious. It is the difference between having leverage and having nothing. Document everything. Every meeting, every verbal instruction, every promise made, every time the goalposts move. Here's the system that actually works. After every significant meeting, send a follow-up email summarizing what was discussed and what you committed to. Keep the tone positive and confirmatory. Just to confirm what we discussed today, I'll be focusing on X and Y by next Friday. Let me know if I've misunderstood anything. You are creating a time-stamped record of what was actually agreed. When they give you verbal instructions that contradict previous guidance, confirm it in writing the same day. Just wanted to confirm you'd like me to shift the approach from A to B starting today, making that change now. No drama, just a paper trail. Keep a separate private log on your personal device, not a work computer. Date, time, what happened, who was present, what was said. Keep it factual, not emotional, not interpretive, just what occurred. March 15th, staff meeting. Manager criticized Q1 report in front of full team. Called analysis sloppy. Contradicts written feedback from March 1st describing the same report as thorough. Why does this matter so much? 2 reasons. First, if you ever need to go to HR or defend yourself formally, you will have evidence. Toxic managers are usually far better at organizational politics than their targets. They've done this before. Documentation levels the field. It converts your word against theirs into your documentation against their denial. Second, and this is the one people underestimate, documentation gives you psychological armor. When you know you have receipts, it becomes easier to not internalize their narrative. You're not crazy. You're not incompetent. You have proof, and proof is stabilizing in a situation designed to make you feel unstable. You cannot document and cope indefinitely. At some point, you need to draw actual lines, but how you draw them matters enormously. Here's the framework. First, pick your battles. You cannot push back on everything. Trying will exhaust you and make you look difficult. Choose 2 or 3 boundaries that actually matter. Late-night texts, public criticism, weekend work. Pick the ones that are most damaging to you and focus there. Second, and this is the key, always frame your boundaries as performance-focused, not personal. You are not asking for comfort. You are proposing a system that produces better results. Don't say, I need better work-life balance. Say, I noticed I do sharper work when I'm fully disconnected on weekends. Would you be open to a protocol where non-urgent requests queue for Monday morning? Don't say, stop criticizing me in meetings. Say, I get a lot more out of your feedback when I can take detailed notes and ask follow-up questions. Would you be willing to share critical feedback in our one-on-ones? You are not telling them what they can't do. You are proposing a structure that serves everyone, including them. That framing is much harder to object to and much easier to hold them accountable to. Third, enforce boundaries consistently and without emotion. If they text you at 10 p.m. after you've established a boundary, don't respond in frustration. Wait until morning and simply say, "Saw your message from last night, addressing it now as part of my morning workflow." Matter of fact, no drama. The boundary holds. Let's be direct about this, because most people either go to HR too early or never go at all. HR's job is risk management for the company, not justice for you. When you report your manager to HR, you are pulling a lever that cannot be unpulled. Your boss will almost certainly find out. Even if HR promises confidentiality, you cannot investigate a complaint without the subject becoming aware. And unless your manager is clearly violating company policy or crossing into illegal territory, there is a real chance HR takes no meaningful action, which means you've just made yourself a visible target with nothing to show for it. So when should you actually go? When you have substantial documentation of behavior that violates written company policy, when the situation has crossed into illegal territory, discrimination, harassment, retaliation, when you're already planning your exit and want a formal record established, when you have genuinely tried everything else and the situation is affecting your health. If you do go to HR, go prepared, not to vent, to present. Bring dates, specific incidents, the business impact, how you've already attempted to address it, and a specific ask. Not make them stop being mean, but "I'm requesting a formal transfer," or "I need written documentation of my performance expectations." Specific, actionable, professional. Here's the reframe that changes how you carry yourself through all of this. You are living through a masterclass in bad leadership. Every single thing your toxic boss does that makes your work life harder, write it down. Not just for HR, for yourself. When they micromanage you to the point of paralysis, you're learning that great leaders give autonomy and trust. When they take credit for your work, you're learning that strong leaders amplify their team in public. When they criticize you in front of others, you're learning that real feedback is private, specific, and constructive. This is genuinely valuable material, the kind of leader you will not become, built from direct experience of what that costs people. And while you're still in the role, be strategic about your time and energy. Volunteer for cross-functional projects that get your work visible to people outside your manager's sphere. Build relationships in other departments. Update your resume and LinkedIn quietly, not dramatically, just consistently. The goal is not to quit tomorrow. The goal is to methodically build your exit while protecting yourself today. Because here's the hard truth. If your boss is genuinely toxic, they are not going to change. People who operate this way have been operating this way for years. Your job is not to fix them. Your job is to make a clear-eyed assessment of one question. Can you survive this situation long enough to exit your option on your own terms? If yes, use every strategy in this video. Stay emotionally detached, document relentlessly, hold your boundaries calmly, build your coalition and your escape route simultaneously. If no, if this is causing panic attacks, destroying your sleep, bleeding into your relationships, damaging your health, then getting out becomes the priority, even if the timing isn't perfect. No salary, no bonus, no title is worth what a prolonged toxic environment does to you over time. That cost compounds too, just not in your favor. Here's what I want you to walk away with. The situation you're in right now feels deeply personal. It's designed to feel personal. A toxic manager's entire playbook depends on you internalizing their narrative, on you believing that the problem is your performance, your communication, your attitude. Because the moment you believe that, you stop defending yourself and start trying to fix something that was never broken. You are not the problem. The dynamic is the problem, and dynamics can be navigated. You have more power in this situation than you think. The documentation you build, the emotional calm you maintain, the boundaries you frame strategically, the relationships you quietly cultivate outside their orbit, the exit you build methodically while protecting yourself in the present. Every single one of those moves shifts the balance. The goal is not to win a fight with a toxic manager. The goal is to leave on your terms with your reputation intact, your confidence intact, and a clear understanding of exactly what kind of leader you're going to be and never become on the other side of this. That's it for today. If you're going through this right now, drop a comment. I read every single one, and you are not as alone in this as it feels. Subscribe if you're new, share this with someone who needs it, and I'll see you in the next one.